the Mahabharata of Krishna-Dwaipayana Vyasa. Translated into English prose from the original Sanskrit text by Pratap Chandra Roy C.I.E. This free ebook has been downloaded from holybooks.com. Udyoga Parva. Section 171, Udyoga Parva. Bhishma said, all the 5 sons of Draupadi, O monarch, are Maharathas. Virata's son Uttar is in my judgment one of the foremost of Rathas. The mighty armed Abhimanyu is a leader of leaders of car divisions. Indeed, that slayer of foes is equal in battle to Partha himself or Vasudeva. Endued with great lightness of hand in shooting weapons, and acquainted with all the modes of warfare, he is possessed of great energy and is steady in the observance of vows. Remembering the sufferings of his own father, he will put forth his prowess. The brave Satyaki of Madhu's race is a leader of leaders of car divisions. Foremost among the heroes of the Vrishni race, he is endued with great wrath, and is perfectly dauntless. Uttamojas also, O king, is an excellent car warrior in my judgment. And Udhamanyu too, of great prowess is, in my judgment, an excellent car warrior. All those chiefs own many thousands of cars and elephants and horses, and they will fight reckless of their very lives, from desire of doing what is agreeable to Kunti's sons. Uniting with the Pandavas, they will, O great king, sweep through thy ranks like fire or the wind, challenging thy warriors. Invincible in battle, those bulls among men, old Virata and old Drupada, both endued with great prowess, are in my judgment both Maharathas. Though old in years, yet both of them are devoted to the observance of Kshatriya virtues. Treading along the path that is trod by heroes, both of them will exert to the best of their might. In consequence of their relationship to the Pandavas, and owing also, O king, to their being endued with strength and prowess, those great bowmen devoted to pure vows, have both derived additional strength from the strength of their affection. According as the cause is, all strong-armed men become or bull of Guru's race, heroes or cowards. Actuated by a singleness of purpose, both these kings who are powerful bowmen, will lay down their very lives in causing a great massacre of thy troops to the best of their might. O slayer of foes, fierce in battle, these distinguished heroes, these mighty bowmen, regardless, O Bharata, of their lives, will at the head of their respective Akshahinis achieve great feats, justifying their relationship and the confidence that is reposed on them by the Pandavas. Thus ends the 171st section in the Udyoga Parva of the Udyoga Parva. Section 172, Udyoga Parva. Bhishma said, that subjugator of hostile cities, Shikandin, the son of the king of the Panchalas, is, O king, in my judgment, one of the foremost of Yudhishthira's Rathas. Having divested himself on his former sex, he will fight in battle and earn great fame, O Bharata, among thy troops. He hath a large number of troops, Panchalas and Prabhadrakas, to support him. With those hosts of cars he will achieve great feats. Dhrishtadyumna also, O Bharata, the leader of all Yudhishthira's army, that mighty car warrior who is also a disciple of Drona, is, O king, in my judgment, an Atiratha. Afflicting all foes in battle, he will singly sweep the field, like the Pinaka-bearing god himself in rage on the occasion of the universal dissolution. Even great warriors will speak of his car divisions, so multitudinous are they as resembling the very ocean of that of the gods in battle. Kshatradaman, the son of Dhrishtadyumna, owing to his immature years, as also in consequence of his want of exercise in arms, is in my judgment, O king, only half a Ratha. That relative of the Pandavas, the mighty bowman Dhrishtaketu, the heroic son of Sisupala, the king of the Chedis, is a Maharatha. That brave ruler of the Chedis will, O king, with his son, achieve feats such as are difficult for even a Maharatha. Kshatradeva, that subjugator of hostile cities, who is devoted to Kshatriya virtues is, O great king, in my judgment one of the best Ratha among the Pandavas. Those brave warriors among the Panchalas, viz., Jayanta and Amitajas, and the great car warrior Satyajit, are all, O king, high-souled Maharathas. They will all, O sire, fight in battle like furious elephants. Aja and Bhoja, both endued with great prowess, are both Maharathas. Possessed of great might, those two heroes will fight for the Pandavas. Both of them are endued with great lightness of hand in the use of weapons. Both of them are conversant with all the modes of warfare, both are well skilled and possessed of firm prowess. The 5 Kshatriya brothers, O king, who are difficult of being vanquished, and all of whom have blood-red banners, are foremost of the Rathas. Kasika, and Sukumara, and Nila, and that other one, viz., Suryadatta, and Sanka, otherwise called Madiraswa, are all in my judgment, the foremost of Rathas. Possessed of every qualification that renders them fit for battle, they are acquainted with all weapons, and all of them are endued with high souls. Vardakshami, O king, is in my judgment a Maharatha. King Chitrayuddha is in my judgment one of the best of Rathas. He is besides an asset in battle and devotedly attached to the diadem-decked Arjuna. Those mighty car warriors, those tigers among men, Chekitna, and Satyadriti, are 2 of the best Rathas of the Pandavas in my judgment. Vyagradata, O monarch, and Chandraskna also, O Bharata, are without doubt 2 of the best Rathas, as I think of the Pandavas. Senavindu, O king, otherwise called Krodahantri by name, who, O lord, is regarded as equal of Vasudeva and of Bhimasena, will contend with great prowess in battle against your warriors. Indeed, that best of kings, ever boasting of his feats in battle, should be regarded by thee precisely as myself, Drona and Kripa are regarded by thee. That best of men, worthy of praise, viz., Kezia, is endued with great lightness of hand in the use of weapons. Indeed, that subjugator of hostile cities is known to me as equal to one Ratha. Drupada's son, Satyajit, young in years and displaying great prowess in battle, should be regarded as equal to 8 Rathas. Indeed, being Dhrishtadyumna's equal, he is an Atiratha. Desirous of spreading the fame of the Pandavas, he will achieve great feats. Devoted to the Pandavas and endued with great bravery, there is another great Ratha of the Pandavas, viz., King Pandya, that bowman of mighty energy. The mighty bowman Dhridadanvan is another Maharatha of the Pandavas. O subjugator of hostile cities, that foremost of Kurus, viz., Shrinimat and King Vasudeva are both, in my judgment, Atirathas. Thus ends the 172nd section in the Uluka Dutagamana Parva of the Udyoga Parva. Section 173, Uluka Dutagamana Parva. Bhishma said, O great king, Ruchamana is another Maharatha of the Pandavas. He will, O Bharata, contend in battle against hostile warriors like a second god. That subjugator of force, the mighty bowman Kuntiboja of great strength, the maternal uncle of Bhimasena, is in my judgment an Atiratha. This mighty and heroic bowman is well versed and highly skilled in fight. Acquainted with all modes of warfare, this bull among our warriors is regarded by me as exceedingly competent. Displaying his prowess, he will fight, like a second Indra, against the Danavas. Those celebrated soldiers that he owns are all accomplished in fight. Stationed on the side of the Pandavas and devoted to what is agreeable and beneficial to them, that hero will, for the sake of his sister's sons, achieve extraordinary feats. That prince of Rakshasas Gatotkaca, O king, born of Bhima and Hidimva, and endued with ample powers of illusion, is in my judgment a leader of the leaders of car divisions. Fond of battle, and endued with powers of illusion, he will, O sire, fight earnestly in battle. Those heroic Rakshasas who are his counselors or dependents will also fight under him. These and many other rulers of provinces, headed by Vasudeva, have assembled for the sake of Pandu's son. These, O king, are principally the Rathas, Atirathas, and half-Rathas of the high-souled Pandava, and these, O king, will lead in battle the terrible army of Yudhishthira, which is protected, again, by that hero, the diadem-decked Arjuna, who is even like the great Indra himself. It is with them, thus endued with powers of illusion and fired by the desire of success, that I shall contend in battle, expectant of victory or death. I shall advance against these two foremost of warriors, Vasudeva and Arjuna, bearing respectively Gandiva and the discus, and resembling the sun and the moon as seen together in the evening. I shall, on the field of battle, encounter also those other warriors of Yudhishthira whom I have mentioned at the head of their respective troops. The Rathas and Atirathas, according to their precedence, have now been declared by me to thee, and they also that are half-Rathas, belonging to thee or them, O chief of the Kauravas. Arjuna and Vasudeva and other lords of earth that may be there, all of them upon whom my eyes may fall, I will withstand, O Bharata, but thou of mighty arms, I will not strike or slay Shikandin the prince of Panchalas, even if I behold him rushing against me in battle with weapons upraised. The world knows how, from a desire of doing what was agreeable to my father, that I gave up the kingdom that had become mine and lived in the observance of the Brahmacharya vow. I then installed Chitrangada in the sovereignty of the Kauravas, making at the same time the child Vichitravirya the Yuvraja. Having notified my godlike vow among all the kings of the earth, I shall never slay a woman or one that was formerly a woman. It may be known to you, O king, that Shikandin was formerly a woman. Having been born as a daughter, she afterwards became metamorphosed into the male sex. I shall not, O Bharata, fight against him. I shall certainly smite all other kings, O bull of Bharata's race, whom I may encounter in battle. I will not, however, O king, be able to slay the sons of Kunti. Thus ends the 173rd section in the Ulukadutagamana Parva of the Udyoga Parva. Section 174, Ulukadutagamana Parva. Duryodhana said, For what reason, O chief of the Bharatas, wilt thou not slay Shikandin, even if thou beholdest him approach thee in as a foe with arms upraised? Thou hadst, O mighty armed one, formerly told me, I will slay the Panchalas with the Somakas. O son of Ganga, tell me, O grandsire, the reason of the present reservation. Bhishma said, Listen, O Duryodhana, to this history, with all these lords of earth, as to why I will not slay Shikandin even if I behold him in battle. My father, Santanu, O king, was celebrated over all the world. O bull of the Bharata race, that king of virtuous soul paid his debt to nature in time. Observing my pledge, O chief of the Bharatas, I then installed my brother Chitrangada on the throne of the extensive kingdom of the Kurus. After Chitrangada's demise, obedient to the counsels of Satyavati, I installed, according to the ordinance, Vichitravirya as king. Although young in age, yet being installed duly by me, O monarch, the virtuous Vichitravirya looked up to me in everything. Desirous of marrying him, I set my heart upon procuring daughters from a suitable family. At that time I heard, O thou of mighty arms, that 3 maidens, all unrivaled for beauty, daughters of the ruler of Kasi, by name Amva, Amvika, and Amvalika, would select husbands for themselves, and that all the kings of the earth, O bull of Bharata's race, had been invited. Amongst those maidens Amva was the eldest, Amvika the second, while the princess Amvalika, O monarch, was the youngest. Myself repairing on a single car to the city of the ruler of Kasi, I beheld, O thou of mighty arms, the 3 maidens adorned with ornaments, and also all the kings of the earth invited thither on the occasion. Then, O bull of Bharata's race, challenging to battle all those kings who were ready for the encounter. I took up those maidens on my car and repeatedly said unto all the kings assembled there these words, Bhishma, the son of Santanu, is carrying away by force these maidens. Ye kings, strive ye all to the best of your power for rescuing them. By force do I take them away, ye bulls among men, making you spectators of my act. At these words of mine those rulers of the earth sprang up with weapons unsheathed. And they angrily urged the drivers of their cars saying, Make ready the cars, make ready the cars. And those monarchs sprang up to the rescue, with weapons unsheathed, car warriors on their cars resembling masses of clouds, those fighting from elephants, on their elephants, and others on their stout and plump steeds. Then all those kings, O monarch, surrounded me on all sides with a multitudinous number of cars. With a shower of arrows, I stopped their onrush on all sides and vanquished them like the chief of celestials vanquishing hordes of Danavas. Laughingly, with easiness I cut down the variegated standards, decked with gold, of the advancing kings, with blazing shafts, O bull of Bharata's race. In that combat I overthrew their steeds and elephants and car drivers, each with a single arrow. Beholding that lightness of hand of mine, they desisted from the fight and broke. And having vanquished all those rulers of the earth, I came back to Hastinapura. I then, O thou of mighty arms, made over those maidens, intending them for my brothers to Satyavati, and represented unto her everything I had done. Thus ends the 174th section in the Udyoga Parva of the Udyoga Parva. Section 175, Udyoga Parva. Bhishma said, Then O chief of the Bharatas, approaching my mother, that daughter of the Dasa clan, and saluting that parent of heroes, I said these words. Having vanquished all the kings, these daughters of the ruler of the Kasi, having beauty alone for their dowry, have been abducted by me for the sake of Vichitravirya. Then O king, Satyavati with eyes bathed in tears smelt my head and joyously said, By good luck it is, O child, that thou hast triumphed. When next, with Satyavati's acquiescence, the nuptials approached, the eldest daughter of the ruler of Kasi said these words in great bashfulness, O Bhishma, thou art conversant with morality, and art well versed in all our scriptures. Hearing my words, it behoveth thee to do towards me that which is consistent with morality. The ruler of the Salvas was before this mentally chosen by me as my lord. By him also, without my father's knowledge, I was privately solicited. How wouldst thou, O Bhishma, born especially as thou art in Kuru's race, transgress the laws of morality and cause one that longeth for another to live in thy abode? Knowing this, O bull of Bharata's race, and deliberating in thy mind, it behoveth thee, O mighty armed one, to accomplish what is proper. O monarch, it is clear that the ruler of the Salvas waiteth for me. It behoveth thee therefore, O best of the Kurus, to permit me to depart. O mighty armed one, be merciful to me, O foremost of righteous persons. Thou, O hero, art devoted to truth, it is well known all over the earth. Thus ends the 175th section in the Udyoga Parva of the Udyoga Parva. Section 176, Udyoga Parva. Bhishma said, I then placed the matter before my mother Kali, otherwise called Gandhavati, as also all our counsellors, and also before our special and ordinary priests, and then permitted, O king, the eldest of those maidens, Amba, to depart. Permitted by me, that maiden then went to the city of the ruler of the Salvas. And she had for her escort a number of old Brahmanas, and was also accompanied by her own nurse. And having travelled the whole distance between Hastinapura and Salva's city, she approached King Salva and said these words, I come, O thou of mighty arms, expectant of thee, O high-souled one. Unto her, however, O king, the lord of the Salvas said with laughter, O thou of the fairest complexion, I no longer desire to make a wife of thee who wast to be wedded to another. Therefore, blessed one, go back thither unto Bhishma's presence. I no longer desire thee that was forcibly ravished by Bhishma. Indeed, when Bhishma, having vanquished the kings, took thee away, thou didst go with him cheerfully. When, having humiliated and vanquished all the kings of the earth, Bhishma took thee away, I no longer desire thee, O thou of the fairest complexion, for a wife, thee that was to have been wedded to another. How can a king like myself, who is acquainted with all branches of knowledge and who lays down laws for the guidance of others, admit into his abode a woman who was to have been wedded to another? O blessed lady, go whithersoever thou wishest without spending thy time in vain. Hearing these words of his, Amba then, O king, afflicted with the arrows of the god of love, addressed Salva saying, Say not so, O Lord of the earth, for it is not so. I, O grinder of force, cheerful I was not when taken away by Bhishma. He took me away by force, having routed all the kings, and I was weeping all the while. An innocent girl that I am and attached to thee, accept me, O Lord of the Salvas. The abandonment by one of those that are attached to him is never applauded in the scriptures. Having solicited Ganga's son who never retreats from battle, and having at last obtained his permission, I come to thee. Indeed, the mighty armed Bhishma, O king, desireth me not. It hath been heard by me that his action in this matter hath been for the sake of his brother. My two sisters Ambika and Amvalika, who were abducted with me at the same time, have, O king, been bestowed by Ganga's son on his younger brother Vichitravirya. O Lord of the Salvas, I swear, O tiger among men, by touching my own head, that I have never thought of any other husband than thee. I do not, O great king, come to thee as one who was to have been wedded to another. I tell thee the truth, O Salva, truly swearing by my soul. Take me, O thou of large eyes, me a maiden come to thee of her own accord, one unbetrothed to another, one desirous of thy grace. Although she spoke in this strain, Salva, however, O chief of the Bharatas, rejected that daughter of the ruler of Kasi, like a snake casting off his slough. Indeed, although that king was earnestly solicited with diverse expressions such as these, the lord of the Salvas still did not, O bull of the Bharata race, manifest any inclination for accepting the girl. Then the eldest daughter of the ruler of the Kasi, filled with anger and her eyes bathed in tears, said these words with a voice choked with tears and grief, Cast off, O king, by thee, whithersoever I may go, the righteous will be my protectors, for truth is indestructible. It thus, O thou of Kuru's race, that the lord of the Salvas rejected that maiden who addressed him in language such as this, and who was sobbing in grief so tenderly. Go! Go! Were the words that Salva said unto her repeatedly. I am in terror of Bhishma, O thou of fair hips, thou art Bhishma's capture. Thus addressed by Salva, destitute of foresight, that maiden issued out of his city sorrowfully and wailing like a she-osprey. Thus ends the 176th section in the Udyoga Parva of the Udyoga Parva. Section 177, Udyoga Parva. Bhishma said, issuing out of the city, Amba reflected sorrowfully in this strain. There is not in the whole world a young woman in such a miserable plight as I. Alas, destitute of friends, I am rejected by Salva also. I cannot go back to the city named after an elephant, for I was permitted by Bhishma to leave that city expectant of Salva. Whom then shall I blame? Myself? Or the invincible Bhishma? Or that foolish father of mine who made arrangements for my self-choice? Perhaps it is my own fault. Why did I not leap down before from Bhishma's car, when that fierce battle took place, for coming to Salva? That I am so affected now, as if deprived of my senses, is the fruit of that omission of mine. Cursed be Bhishma! Cursed be my own wretched father of foolish understanding, who had arranged prowess to be my dower, sending me out as if I were a woman disposed for a consideration. Cursed be myself. Cursed be King Salva himself, and cursed be my creator too. Cursed be they through whose fault such great misery hath been mine. Human beings always suffer what is destined for them. The cause, however, of my present affliction is Bhishma, the son of Santanu. I therefore see that, at present my vengeance should fall upon him, either through ascetic austerities or by battle, for he is the cause of my woe. But what king is there that would venture to vanquish Bhishma in battle? Having settled this, she issued out of the city for repairing to an asylum of the high-souled ascetics of virtuous deeds. The night she stayed there, surrounded by those ascetics. And that lady of sweet smiles told those ascetics, O Bharata, all that had happened to herself with the minutest details, O mighty armed one, about her abduction and her rejection by Salva. There lived in that asylum an eminent Brahmana of rigid vows, and his name was C.I.E. Endued with ascetic merit of a high order, he was a preceptor of the scriptures and the Aranyakas. And the sage C.I.E., of great ascetic merit, addressed that afflicted maiden, that chaste girl sighing heavily in grief, and said, If it hath been so, O blessed lady, what can high-souled ascetics residing in their woody retreats and engaged in penances do? That maiden, however, O king, answered him saying, Let mercy be shown to me, I desire a life in the woods, having renounced the world. I will practice the severest of ascetic austerities. All that I now suffer is certainly the fruit of those sins that I had committed from ignorance in my former life. I do not venture to go back to my relatives, ye ascetics, rejected and cheerless that I am, knowing that I have been humiliated by Salva. Ye that have washed away your sins, godlike as ye are, I desire that ye should instruct me in ascetic penance. O let mercy be shown to me. Thus addressed, that sage then comforted the maiden by examples and reasons borrowed from the scriptures. And having consoled her thus, he promised, with the other Brahmanas, to do what she desired. Thus ends the 177th section in the Udyoga Parva of the Udyoga Parva. Section 178, Udyoga Parva. Bhishma said, Those virtuous ascetics then set themselves about their usual avocations, thinking all the while as to what they should do for that maiden. And some amongst them said, Let her be taken to her father's abode. And some amongst them set their hearts upon reproaching ourselves. And some thought that repairing to the ruler of the Salvas, he should be solicited to accept the maiden. And some said, No, that should not be done, for she hath been rejected by him. And after some time had passed thus, those ascetics of rigid vows once more said unto her, What, O blessed lady, can ascetics with senses under control do? Do not devote thyself to a life in the woods, renouncing the world. O blessed lady, listen to these words that are beneficial to thee. Depart hence, blessed be thou, to thy father's mansion. The king, thy father, will do what should next be done. O auspicious one, surrounded by every comfort, thou mayst live there in happiness. Thou art a woman. At present therefore, O blessed one, thou hast no other protector save thy father. O thou of the fairest complexion, as regards a woman, she hath her father for her protector or her husband. Her husband is her protector when she is in comfortable circumstances, but when plunged in misery she hath her father for her protector. A life in the woods is exceedingly painful, especially to one that is delicate. Thou art a princess by birth. Over this thou art again very delicate, O beautiful dame. O blessed lady, there are numerous discomforts and difficulties attaching to a life in a woody retreat, none of which, O thou of the fairest complexion, shalt thou have to bear in thy father's abode. Other ascetics beholding that helpless girl said to her, "Seeing thee alone in deep and solitary woods, kings may court thee. Therefore set not thy heart upon such a course." Hearing these words, Amba said, "I am incapable of going back to my father's abode in the city of Kasi, for without doubt I shall then be disregarded by all my relatives. Ye ascetics, I lived there in my father's abode during my childhood. I cannot however now go to thither where my father is. Protected by the ascetics I desire to practice ascetic austerities, so that in even future life of mine such sore afflictions may not be mine. Ye best of ascetics, I desire therefore to practice ascetic austerities." Bhishma continued, "When those Brahmanas were thinking thus about her, there came into that forest that best of ascetics, the royal sage Hotravahana. Then those ascetics reverenced the king with worship, enquiries of welcome and courtesy, a seat, and water. And after he was seated and had rested for a while, those denizens of the forest once more began to address that maiden in the hearing of that royal sage. Hearing the story of Amba and the king of Kasi, that royal sage of great energy became very anxious at heart. Hearing her speak in that strain and beholding her distress, that royal sage of rigid austerities, viz., the high-souled Hotravahana, was filled with pity. Then, O Lord, that maternal grandsire of hers rose up with trembling frame, and causing that maiden to sit on his lap began to comfort her. He then inquired of her in details about that distress of hers from its beginning. And she thereupon represented to him minutely all that had happened. Hearing all she said, the royal sage was filled with pity and grief. And that great sage settled in mind what she would do. Trembling from agitation, he addressed the afflicted maiden sunk in woe, saying, "Do not go back to thy father's abode, O blessed lady. I am the father of thy mother. I will dispel thy grief. Rely on me, O daughter. Great indeed must thy affliction be when thou art so emaciated. At my advice go unto the ascetic Rama, the son of Jamdagni. Rama will dispel this great affliction and grief of thine. He will slay Bhishma in battle if the latter obeyeth not his behest. Go therefore unto that foremost one of Bhrigu's race, who resembleth the Yuga fire itself in energy. That great ascetic will place thee once more on the right track." Hearing this, that maiden, shedding tears all the while, saluted her maternal grandsire Hotravana with a bend of her head and addressed him, saying, "Go, I will at thy command. But shall I succeed in obtaining a sight of that reverend sire celebrated over the world? How will he dispel this poignant grief of mine? And how shall I go to that descendant of Bhrigu? I desire to know all this." Hotravahana said, "O blessed maiden, thou wilt behold Jamdagni's son Rama, who is devoted to truth and endued with great might and engaged in austere penances in the great forest. Rama always dwelleth in that foremost of the mountains called Mahendra. Many rishis, learned in the Veds, and many Gandharvas and Apsaras also dwell there. Go, blessed be thou, and tell him these words of mine, having saluted with thy bent head that sage of rigid vows and great ascetic merit. Tell him also, O blessed girl, all that thou seekest. If thou namest me, Rama will do everything for thee, for Rama, the heroic son of Jamdagni, that foremost of all bearers of arms, is a friend of mine, highly pleased with me and always wisheth me well." And while King Hotravahana was saying all this unto that maiden, thither appeared a Kritavrana, a dear companion of Rama. And on his advent those munis by hundreds and the Srinjaya King Hotravahana, old in years, all stood up. And those denizens of the forest, uniting with one another, did him all the rites of hospitality. And they all took their seats surrounding him. And filled, O monarch, with gratification and joy, they then started various delightful, laudable, and charming subjects of discourse. And after their discourse was over, that royal sage, the high-souled Hotravahana inquired of Akritavrana about Rama, that foremost of great sages, saying, O thou of mighty arms, where Akritavrana may that foremost of persons acquainted with the Veds, viz. Jamdagni's son of great prowess, be seen? Akritavrana answered him saying, O Lord, Rama always speaketh of thee, O king, saying, that royal sage of the Srinjayas is my dear friend. I believe Rama will be here tomorrow morning. Thou wilt see him even here when he cometh to behold thee. As regards this maiden, for what, O royal sage, hath she come to the wood? Whose is she and what is she to thee? I desire to know all this. Hotravahana said, the favourite daughter of the ruler of Kasi. She is, O Lord, my daughter's child. The eldest daughter of the king of Kasi, she is known by the name of Amva. Along with her two younger sisters, O sinless one, she was in the midst of her Swayamvara ceremonies. The names of her two younger sisters are Ambika and Amvalika. O thou endued with wealth of asceticism, all the Kshatriya kings of the earth were assembled together at the city of Kasi. And O regenerate Rishi, great festivities were going on there on account of the self-choice of these maidens. In the midst of these, Santanu's son Bhishma, of mighty valor, disregarding all the kings, abducted the girls. Vanquishing all the monarchs, the pure-souled prince Bhishma of Bharata's race then reached Hastinapura, and representing everything unto Satyavati, ordered his brother Vichitravirya's marriage to take place with the girls he had brought. Beholding the arrangements for those nuptials complete, this maiden noble among Brahmanas then addressed Ganga's son in the presence of his ministers and said, I have, O hero, within my heart chosen the Lord of the Salvas to be my husband. Conversant as thou art with morality, it behoveth thee not to bestow me on thy brother, whose heart is given away to another. Hearing these words of hers, Bhishma took counsel with his ministers. Deliberating on the matter, he at last, with Satyavati's consent, dismissed this maiden. Permitted thus by Bhishma, this girl gladly repaired to Salva, the lord of Soba, and approaching him said, Dismissed I have been by Bhishma. See that I do not fall off from righteousness. In my heart I have chosen thee for my lord, O bull among kings. Salva however rejected her, suspecting the purity of her conduct. Even she hath come to these woods sacred for asceticism, being ardently inclined to devote herself to ascetic penances. She was recognized by me from the account that she gave of her parentage. As regards her sorrow, Bhishma is considered by her to be its root. After Hotravahana had ceased, Amva herself said, O Holy One, it is even so as this Lord of Earth, this author of my mother's body, Hotravahana of the Srinjaya race, hath said. I cannot venture to go back to my own city, O thou that art endued with wealth of asceticism, for shame and fear of disgrace, O great Muni. At present, O Holy One, even this is what hath been my determination, viz., that would be my highest duty, which the holy Rama, O best of Brahmanas, might point out to me. Thus ends the 178th section in the Udyoga Parva of the Udyoga Parva. Section 179, Udyoga Parva. Akritavrana said, Of these two afflictions of thine, for which, O blessed lady, dost thou seek a remedy? Tell me this. If it is thy wish that the Lord of Soba should be urged to wed thee, the high-souled Rama will certainly urge him from desire of doing thee good. Or if thou wishest to behold Ganga's son Bhishma defeated in battle by intelligent Rama, Bhargava will gratify even that wish of thine. Hearing what Srinjaya has to say, and what thou also, O thou of sweet smiles, may have to say, let that be settled this very day, what should be done for thee. Hearing these words, Amva said, O Holy One, abducted I was by Bhishma, acting from ignorance, for O regenerate one, Bhishma knew not that my heart had been given away to Salva. Thinking of this in thy mind, let that be resolved upon by thee which is consistent with justice, and let steps be taken for accomplishing that resolution. Do that, O Brahmana, which is proper to be done towards either that tiger among the Kurus, viz. Bhishma, singly, or towards the ruler of the Salvas, or towards both of them. I have told thee truly about the root of my grief. It behoveth thee, O Holy One, to do that which is consistent with reason. Akritavrana said, This, O blessed lady, O thou of the fairest complexion, that thou sayest with eyes fixed upon virtue, is indeed worthy of thee. Listen, however, to what I say. If Ganga's son had never taken thee to the city called after the elephant, then, O timid girl, Salva would have, at Rama's behest, taken thee on his head. It is because Bhishma bore thee away by force that King Salva's suspicions have been awakened in respect of thee, O thou of slender waist. Bhishma is proud of his manliness and is crowned with success. Therefore thou shouldst cause thy vengeance to fall upon Bhishma and no other. Hearing these words of the sage, Amba said, O regenerate one, this desire hath been cherished by me also in my heart, viz. That if possible Bhishma should be caused by me to be slain in battle. O thou of mighty arms, be it Bhishma or be it King Salva, punish that man whom thou thinkest to be guilty and through whose act I have been so miserable. Bhishma continued, in conversations such as this, that day passed and the night also, O best of Bharata's race, with its delicious breeze which was neither cold nor hot. Then Rama appeared there, beaming with energy. And that sage, wearing matted locks on his head and attired in deer skins, was surrounded by his disciples. And endued with magnanimous soul, he had his bow in hand. And bearing also a sword and a battle axe, that sinless one, O tiger among king, approached the Srinjaya king Hotravahana in that forest. And the ascetics dwelling there, and that king also who was endued with great ascetic merit, beholding him all stood up and waited, O king, with joined hands. And that helpless maiden too did the same. And they all cheerfully worshipped Bhargava with the offer of honey and curds. Being worshipped duly by them, Rama sat with them seated round him. Then, O Bharata, Jamdagni's son and Hotravahana, seated thus together, began to discourse. And after their discourse was over, the sage Hotravahana opportunely said in a sweet voice these words of grave import unto that foremost one of Bhrigu's race, viz. Rama of mighty strength. O Rama, this is my daughter's daughter, O Lord, being the daughter of the king of Kasi. She hath something to be done for her. O listen to it duly, thou that art skilled in all tasks. Hearing these words of his friend, Rama addressed that maiden, saying, Tell me what thou hast to say. At these words Amba approached Rama, who resembled a blazing fire, and worshipping both his feet with her bent head, touched them with her two hands that resembled in radiance a couple of lotuses, and stood silently before him. And filled with grief, she wept aloud, her eyes bathed in tears. And she then sought the protection of that descendant of Bhrigu, who was the refuge of all distressed persons. And Rama said, Tell me what grief is in thy heart. I will act according to thy word. Thus encouraged, Amba said, O thou of great woes, O Holy One, today I seek thy protection. O Lord, raise me from this unfavorable ocean of sorrow. Bhishma continued, beholding her beauty and her youthful body and its great delicacy, Rama began to think, what will she say? And that perpetuator of Bhrigu's line, thinking inwardly of this, sat long in silence, filled with pity. He then addressed that maiden of sweet smiles again, saying, Tell us what thou hast to say. Thus encouraged, she represented everything truly unto Bhargava. And Jamdagni's son, hearing these words of the princess, and having first settled what he should do, addressed that damsel of the fairest complexion, saying, O beautiful lady, I will send word unto Bhishma, that foremost one of Kuru's race. Having heard what my behest is, that king will certainly obey it. If however the son of Janhavi does not act according to my words, I will then consume him in battle. O blessed girl, with all his counselors. Or, O princes, if thou desirest it, I may even address the heroic ruler of the Salvas to the matter in hand." Hearing these words of Rama, Amba said, "Dismissed I was by Bhishma, O son of Bhrigu's race, as soon as he heard that my heart had previously been freely given away to the ruler of the Salvas. Approaching then the lord of Soba, I addressed him in language that was unbecoming. Doubtful of the purity of my conduct, he refused to accept me. Reflecting on all this, with the aid of thy own understanding, it behoveth thee, O son of Bhrigu's race, to do that which should be done in view of these circumstances. Bhishma, however, of great woes, is the root of my calamity, for he brought me under his power, taking me upon his car by violence. Slay that Bhishma, O thou of mighty arms, for whose sake, O tiger of Bhrigu's race, overwhelmed with such distress I suffer such poignant misery. Bhishma, O thou of Bhrigu's race, is covetous and mean and proud of his victory. Therefore, O sinless one, thou shouldst give him his deserts. While, O Lord, I was being abducted by him, even this was the desire that I cherished in my heart, viz., that I should cause that hero of great woes to be slain. Therefore, O sinless Rama, gratify this desire of mine. O thou of mighty arms, slay Bhishma even as Purandara slew Vritra." Thus ends the 179th section in the Ulukadhyutagamana Parva of the Udyoga Parva. Section 180, Ulukadhyutagamana Parva. Bhishma said, "O Lord," repeatedly urged by that maiden to slay Bhishma, Rama replied unto that weeping girl, saying, "O daughter of Kasi, O thou of the fairest complexion, I do not on any account take up arms now except for the sake of those that are conversant with the Veds. Tell me therefore what else I can do for thee." Both Bhishma and Salva are, O princes, exceedingly obedient to me. Do not grieve. I will accomplish thy object. I will not, however, O beautiful lady, take up arms except at the command of Brahmanas. This hath been my rule of conduct. Amba said, "My misery, O Holy One, should by any means be dispelled by thee. That misery of mine hath been caused by Bhishma. Slay him therefore, O Lord, without much delay." Rama said, "O daughter of Kasi, say but the word, and Bhishma, however deserving of reverence from thee, will at my word take up thy fee on his head." Amba said, "O Rama, slay in battle that Bhishma who roareth like an asura. Indeed, summoned to the encounter by him, slay him, Rama, if thou wishest to do what is agreeable to me. It behoveth thee besides, to make thy promise true." Bhishma continued, "While O King Rama and Amba were talking thus with each other, the Rishi Akritavrana of highly virtuous soul said these words: "It behoveth thee not, O mighty armed one, to desert this girl that seeketh thy protection. If summoned to battle, Bhishma cometh to the encounter and saith, I am vanquished, or if he obeyeth thy words, then that which this maiden seeketh will be accomplished, O son of Bhrigu's race. And the words spoken by thee, O hero, will also, O Lord, be true. This also was, O great Muni, the vow then made by thee, O Rama, the vow made by thee before Brahmanas after thou hadst conquered all the Kshatriyas, viz., that thou wouldst slay in battle the person, be he a Brahmana, a Kshatriya, a Vaisya, or a Sudra, who would be a foe to the Brahmanas. Thou hadst further promised that as long as thou wouldst live, thou wouldst not abandon those that would come to thee in fright and seek thy protection, and that thou wouldst, O Bhargava, slay that proud warrior who would vanquish in battle all the assembled Kshatriyas of the earth. O Rama, even Bhishma, that perpetuator of Guru's race, hath achieved such success over all the Kshatriyas. Approaching him, O son of Bhrigu's race, encounter him now in battle." Rama said, "O best of rishis, I recollect that vow of mine made before. I will, however, in the present instance do that which conciliation may point out. That task which the daughter of Kasi had in her mind, O Brahmana, is a grave one. Taking this maiden with me, I will repair myself to the place where Bhishma is. If Bhishma, proud of his achievements in battle, does not obey my behest, I will then slay that arrogant wight. Even this is my fixed resolve. The arrows shot by me do not stick to the bodies of embodied creatures but pass them through. This is known to you from what you saw in my encounters with the Kshatriyas. Having said this, Rama then, along with all those seekers of Brahma, resolved to depart from that asylum. And the great ascetic then rose from his seat. Then all those ascetics passing that night there performed on the next morning their Homa rites and recited their prayers. And then they all set out, desirous of taking my life. And Rama, accompanied by all those devotees of Brahma, then came to Kurukshetra, O monarch, with that maiden, O Bharata, in their company. And those high-souled ascetics, with that foremost one of Bhrigu's race at their head, having arrived on the banks of the stream of Saraswati, quartered themselves there. Thus ends the 188th section in the Udyoga Parva of the Udyoga Parva. If you enjoyed this audiobook, please like and subscribe to be notified of when new audiobooks are uploaded. Thank you for listening and learning. Shanti.